Did you know what was being transported inside that military convoy that passed through this gas station on Route 66 every night at the same time? How did 19-year-old Tommy Sullivan's curiosity draw him into one of the United States of America's most secret operations? If you have similar secret stories, send them to our email address in the description and let's share them in our videos.
My name is Tommy Sullivan, and the story I'm telling you is what I experienced on that cold winter night that changed my life forever. I was 19 years old and working the night shift at Moe's gas station on Route 66 in the small town of Riverside, south of Chicago. It was December 1943, and the war was felt in every corner of the United States of America. I was an ordinary young man, about 5 feet 7 inches tall, with a thin build, brown hair, and green eyes. My hands were constantly covered in oil, and I always wore the same blue overalls. The signs of transition to manhood were not yet evident on my face, so I looked younger than my age. Maybe that's why I wasn't drafted into the war, or maybe because I was my mother's only son. I had received an exemption. Anyway, while my other friends were fighting on the European and Pacific fronts, I was standing here at the gas pumps. That night was particularly cold. As the December wind battered the metal walls of the station, I could hear that familiar sound. The breathtaking cold of Illinois winter nights penetrated to my bones. I was stoking the old stove inside the small station building, but it still felt cold. Outside, only the snow-covered road of Route 66 was visible, and the headlights of cars coming from afar pierced through the darkness of the night. At exactly 5 minutes to midnight, as always, that familiar engine sound reached my ears. A convoy of 3 large military trucks passed through here every night at the same time. The first truck had Illinois plates. The other 2 were from Missouri. The trucks were so heavily loaded that I could see the tracks they left on Route 66's asphalt in the morning. The drivers never stopped. They just passed by slowing down. But that night, something was different. The first truck stopped in front of the station. The engine sound ceased, and the door opened. The man who got out was middle-aged, broad-shouldered, and had a military bearing. I couldn't quite make out the badge on his green military jacket in the darkness, but it was clear that his rank was high. His face was lined and tired, carrying the weight of war in his eyes. As he walked toward me, his boots crunched on the snow. "Son, is this place open at night too?" he asked me. His voice was deep and slightly hoarse, as if he had been smoking for a long time. "Yes, sir. We're open until morning," I said. "Are you going to get gas?" The man looked me up and down for a long time. A taut moment, a strange feeling arose in me, as if he was sizing me up. "No, son, not gas. Just, you might have noticed that we pass through here every night." When I heard these words, my heart started beating fast. I had indeed been seeing these convoys every night for 3 months, and wondered where they came from and where they went. "Yes, sir, I noticed. Every night, at the same time. ... It's obvious you're a curious young man," the man said, smiling. "What's your name, son?" "Tommy Sullivan, sir." "I'm Major Morrison. Frank Morrison." He extended his hand, and we shook. His hand was full of calluses, and his grip was very strong. There was deep fatigue in his eyes, but also determination. "Tommy, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to give me an honest answer. Do you have any observations about these convoys?" A war began inside me. On one hand was my curiosity. On the other hand was my fear. "Sir, I'm just a gas pump attendant. I don't make observations." Major Morrison laughed slightly, but his smile was sad. "You're a smart kid, Tommy. But look, let me tell you why I'm here." He took a deep breath, and his eyes drifted into the distance. 3 weeks ago, we lost a young lieutenant who served in the same convoy as me. His name was David Parker. He was about your age. He came from Philadelphia, and his mother constantly wrote him letters. There was pain in his voice, and this pain deeply affected me too. "What happened to him, sir?" "After leaving Chicago, we realized we were being followed. David volunteered to stay behind to protect us. We never saw him again." Major Morrison's eyes had become moist. "That young man's mother is still writing letters, Tommy. Every week she sends letters to post offices on the roads our convoy passes through. hoping her son is safe." These words broke my heart into pieces. David Parker's story had settled right in the middle of my fears and feelings of guilt. "Sir, I'm very sorry. Tommy, I don't want David's death to be in vain. These convoys are very important, and we're at risk every time we pass through. But you're here. You can watch this road. You can do what David couldn't do. You can protect us." Morrison took out a small, worn photograph from his pocket. In the photograph was a smiling young soldier. He really looked about my age. "This is David's last photograph. His mother gave it to me, asking me to carry it to protect other soldiers." When I looked at the photograph, I saw the same determination in David's eyes. At the same time, I could also see his mother's love and hope. "Sir, I don't know if I can be as brave as David. Courage, Tommy, is not about not being afraid. Courage is doing the right thing, even when you're scared." Morrison put the photograph back in his pocket. David was scared too, but he still did his duty. "You can do the same." At that moment, I understood that this wasn't just an opportunity for me to satisfy my curiosity or have an adventure. This was a chance to show respect for David Parker's memory and his mother's hopes. This was an opportunity to really do something for my country. "Sir, what is David's mother doing now?" "She's still working at an ammunition factory in Philadelphia. She works every day, hoping David will return. She's waiting for news from us. But we don't have any good news to give." Morrison's voice was breaking. "But if you help us, maybe we can successfully complete this operation that David sacrificed for. Then his death will have meaning." "Sir, what do you want me to do?" I was determined now. David Parker's story had changed me. These words deeply affected me. "For my country." I hadn't gone to war. While my friends were fighting on the fronts, I was here selling gas. Maybe I could do something. "What do you want me to do, sir?" Major Morrison looked around, then approached me. "Tommy, we try to be careful when we pass through here, but sometimes we feel like we're being followed. You're here throughout the night. You can see the entire road. If you see something suspicious, can you give a signal?" "What kind of signal?" "If you see a suspicious vehicle, turn the station lights on and off 3 times. Simple, but effective." That night, after Major Morrison left, I had thousands of questions in my head. What were these convoys carrying? Why were they so secret? And most importantly, could I really help? The next night, at 11 o'clock, an unfamiliar black Buick came to the station. There were 2 men inside, and they waited for a while with the engine running. I tried to look at their license plates, but it was too dark. The men kept looking at Route 66, as if they were waiting for someone. My heart was beating wildly, and my hands were trembling. David Parker's photograph came before my eyes, and I remembered his courage. One of the men in the car got out. He was tall, wearing a dark coat, and had pulled his hat down to his eyes. He walked slowly toward the station. When he opened the door, cold wind poured in and made me shiver. "Is this place open at night, son?" he asked. He spoke with a strange accent. I couldn't tell exactly where he was from, but he was definitely not American. "Yes, sir. We're open until morning." I could barely keep my voice from trembling. The man wandered around the shop, as if he was looking for something. He examined the shelves, looked toward the back room. "Are you here every night?" "Yes, sir. The night shift is mine." "Do you see the trucks passing on that road?" "The military ones?" When I heard this question, my blood froze. David Parker's mother came before my eyes. That poor woman was still waiting for her son to return. "Which trucks are you referring to, sir?" The black car immediately moved and sped away. But as they were leaving, that strangely accented man gave me a threatening look, as if he had remembered me. When the convoy arrived, Major Morrison got out of the truck and came to me. There was satisfaction on his face, but also concern. "You did a good job, Tommy. That car had been following us for several days. But did you talk to them?" "Yes, sir. One of them came. He had a strange accent and asked questions about the trucks." Morrison's face became serious. "What kind of questions?" "He asked if I was here every night, if I saw the military trucks. Then he said being smart could be dangerous." "Tommy, This is very serious. These men are probably enemy agents. They might have killed David Parker too. Morrison's voice trembled with anger. It could be dangerous for you now too. When I heard these words, I was scared, but at the same time felt more determined. Sir, David said. He couldn't say he was afraid. And I can't either. I want to do it too. Morrison looked at me for a long time. Tommy, this job now has very dangerous dimensions. But you're really a brave young man. David's spirit would be proud of you. From that night on, I began to be more careful every night. I was watching not only the convoys, but also suspicious vehicles. David Parker's memory strengthened me, and I wanted to keep his mother's hopes alive. Sir, I was right to be curious then. What are you carrying? Major Morrison remained silent for a long time. Then he took a deep breath. Tommy, some things must remain secret, but I can tell you this. The materials we carry in these trucks are of such importance that they could change the course of the war. And with the help of patriotic young people like you, these materials safely reach where they need to go. After that night, I began to be more careful every night. I examined every car that came to the station, every truck that passed on Route 66. I saw suspicious vehicles several more times and gave the signal. Each time the convoy passed safely. At the end of December, a snowstorm began. That night, the convoy came later than usual. It was 1 o'clock, and they still hadn't come. The snow was so heavy that it was almost impossible to see on the road. I was starting to worry. Around 2 o'clock, I saw the convoy's headlights, but something seemed wrong. There were only 2 trucks. The third one was missing, and they were moving very slowly. The first truck stopped in front of the station, and Major Morrison got out. This time his face was very serious, and he looked worried. Tommy, we had a big problem tonight. Our third truck broke down on the road, and it was carrying a very important load. We need to bring it to a safe place. What can I do, sir? Can you drive a truck? He asked. Yes, sir. My mother has an old Ford. Can you tow that truck here? It's only 5 miles away. Ask it again. At that moment, I accepted without thinking. I took my mother's 1938 Ford pickup and went toward that truck in the snow with Major Morrison's instructions. As I drove, my heart was beating wildly. This was the most important thing I would do for my country. When I found the truck, the driver was injured. Blood was coming from his head, and he was very cold. I took him into my pickup and returned to the station, towing the truck. During that journey, the wounded soldier told me about the United States of America's situation in the war, the courage of the soldiers, and how important this war was. When we returned to the station, Major Morrison and the other soldiers met me. That night, in the small station building, I had become part of one of the United States of America Army's most secret operations. The next morning, everything returned to normal. The convoys continued to come every night. I continued to work my night shift. But now, everything was different. I was no longer just a gas pump attendant. I, too, was part of the war. And Major Morrison came for the last time. He gave me a small medal. This isn't official, Tommy, he said, but know that you are a real hero. Then he took David Parker's photograph out of his pocket. I wrote a letter to David's mother, Margaret Parker. I told her that her son's memory was being kept alive by a brave young man named Tommy Sullivan. She also sent you her thanks. I still keep that medal and David's story. Thanks to his courage, I know that even though I didn't go to war, I was able to do something for my country and protect a mother's hopes. David Parker's sacrifice had not been in vain. The chain of protection he started had continued with me.
Tommy Sullivan's story shows how heroism was displayed not only on the battlefields during wartime, but also within the country. A night shift at a small gas station had played a small but important role in the United States of America's war victory. Sometimes the greatest heroism comes from the most unexpected places, and ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. Don't forget to send your similar stories to our email address in the description.